on ESPN News, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over those particular platforms. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. That's 888-729-3776. If you missed any of my opening segment today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by Capital One. Capital One is reimagining banking, offering accounts with no fees or minimums that can be opened in 5 minutes. Capital One. Hey, what's in your wallet? Also, the Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Prilosec OTC. Kick your antacid habit with Prilosec OTC. Hour number 2 is here with us. Let me get into a couple of other things that are worth noting. You know, the Pittsburgh Steelers have a dilemma because now that they've made the decision and Antonio Brown is going to be gone, people are speculating, wondering whether or not you trade him to, you know, within the NFC, AFC, whatever. I got no problems with that. Trade him to the NFC. Don't deal with that man. Don't have to deal with that man. Please, please, please don't have to deal with that man twice a year, not even once a year. But the biggest reason why you want to trade Antonio Brown to another conference is because you don't want the circus that has been the Steelers this year continuing to come that way. You don't want that. Anytime he's around, anytime he's playing the Steelers, all the drama that led to his departure from the Steel City is going to be revisited. You don't need that headache. You really, really don't. And so what you want to do, come hell or high water, is what you want to do more than anything else is avoid that drama. You don't want to deal with it. You just don't want to deal with it. And I think it's very, very important to point that out. You don't want to deal with that nonsense because it's unnecessary. It really is. So send them to the NFC and call it a day. Send them to San Francisco with Garoppolo, Jimmy G, porn star Jimmy. Go ahead and send them there. I got no problems with it. Let them do that. But don't keep them within the same conference, and damn sure don't trade them within the division. Don't do that. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. I need to get to another story of national significance because it's necessary to broach. There was an incident that took place involving 8 players from the Ole Miss men's basketball team on Saturday. They had a home game against Georgia. There was a Confederacy rally near the arena on campus. And these men basketball players had a problem with it. So minutes before the game, as both teams formed lines for the singing or the playing of the national anthem, as the Star-Spangled Banner began, 6 players for the Rebels, Ole Miss Rebels, KJ Buffin, DC Davis, Brian Hollums, Luis Rodriguez, Devontae Shuler, and Bruce Stevens knelt one by one. They all took a knee during the national anthem. 2 more players, including leading scorer Breon Tyree and Franco Miller Jr., took a knee on the song's final line. The game was being played while 2 pro-Confederacy groups organized the march onto the campus in Oxford, Mississippi. Before I get into my take, let me read you a couple of quotes. This is from the team's leading scorer, Tyree. He said the majority of it was, we saw one of our teammates doing it and we just didn't want him to be alone. We're just tired of these hate groups coming to our school and portraying our campus like it's our actual university, having these hate groups in our school. He went on to tweet a little bit later, to the people that fight for this country, my teammates and I meant no disrespect to everything that you do for us. But we had to take a stand to the negative things that went on today on our campus. Ole Miss coach Kermit Davis said he wasn't aware beforehand that players were going to kneel, but did add this. This was all about the hate groups that came to our community to try to spread racism and bigotry. He is a white man. This is what he is saying, the head coach, Kermit Davis. He says it's created a lot of tension for our campus. Our players made an emotional decision to show these people they're not welcomed on our campus. And we respect our players' freedom and ability to choose that. AD, athletic director at Ole Miss, Ross Bork, said he had a discussion with the players about the on-campus protests. And listen to what he added. These people that come here and they spill hate and bigotry and racism, we don't want them on our campus. Our players stood up for that, Bork said, who's a white male as well. It had nothing to do with the anthem. It had nothing to do with anything beyond. We don't want those people here. They're protesting during our game, and that's not right because that's not the Ole Miss that I know. We talk to them about that in the locker room. We support them because we don't want those people here either. The university doesn't want them. Our town doesn't want them. They're out of state. They're not from here. So good for the players to stand up and make that statement, end quote. Want to say to the Ole Miss basketball players, very, very proud of y'all. Proud of what y'all did. Found nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with it whatsoever. Ladies and gentlemen, understand something here. As my man Will Kane said on the radio, on my show First Take on ESPN every weekday morning from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time, 7 to 9 Pacific. Will Kane pointed out how, and he can elaborate on it later when he's on the radio, but he spoke about it, and he was basically challenging, why does everything have to be about the anthem these days? Why does the protest have to be about the anthem? What are we really, really accomplishing here? He asked those questions. I think those are very salient points that he's making. I don't think they can be ignored. And the fact of the matter is, whether it's right or not, you're going to have some people who bring up issues of patriotism. Our president did that to the NFL players, which caused so many problems, over a year ago. There's no doubt about that. And the whole Colin Kaepernick scandal. This is different. Let's be clear about something here. People could get into the history of the Confederacy all they want to. We could talk about the history of the North against the South and the battle and how that American flag being raised and that American flag being waved, that defeated the Confederacy. And essentially, racism was defeated. Why do you say that? Because Confederacy was associated with racism, with bigotry, etc. That's a fact. That's just a fact. In the eyes of disenfranchised communities in this nation, whether it be black or anything else, that's what the Confederacy has primarily been associated with. And so if you are a player in today's day and age, going to school at Ole Miss, which is Ole Mississippi. You're talking about the Deep South there. And you got pro-Confederacy groups that ain't even from town. And they're coming out of town to come on your campus. Why are they doing that? Why did they choose Ole Miss? Could it be that they were trying to give the impression that there's a whole bunch of people in this town, there's a whole bunch of people right here on this campus, this university, that are supportive of our position? Is that not what the intent was? Because why would you go someplace where everyone is diametrically opposed to you and your thinking and your beliefs and your preferred way of life? Why would you go to that place? So by going there, tacitly, if not directly, they were giving the impression or attempting to give the impression that that's what they're about, that's what that university is about, that's what the people near Ole Miss are all about, because it's Mississippi, right? Well, the players stood up and said, hold on a second. That was a different day. This is a new day, and we're here to tell you that's not the way it is now. We don't want you here. This university doesn't want you here. The student body doesn't want you here. There's a lot of people in this town that don't want you here. That's what they were saying. And I think considering those circumstances, it was a very, very profound statement for them to make. Because they knew by taking the knee, they would have to answer for it, which would garner them the attention that they wanted to knock down the pro-Confederacy groups. Now, you also have those who argue nobody even knew what the hell was going on until these players brought attention to it. But maybe that's the point the players were making. We want national attention to be brought to this because this is what we're dealing with locally, regionally, and we don't like it. And we need the muscle, the collective muscle of this nation to descend upon this area, to bring attention to what we're dealing with so it can neutralize and ultimately eradicate this kind of nonsense going on at our university or in our town. They have the support of their head coach. They have the support of their athletic director. I have no doubt that they have the support of their university president, their chancellor, etc. And as a result, it's a good thing. Because what you're attempting to do is weed out hatred. Not an anthem being overused as a forum/platform to illuminate issues that are permeating our society. No, that's not always the way to go. Absolutely true. But in this specific incident, I want to applaud those players. They did the right thing. Nonviolent, exercised their own protest, highlighted why they were doing so, articulated their patriotism and their appreciation for our servicemen and women. They didn't do anything wrong. Nothing. And I sincerely hope that I don't hear the President of the United States open his mouth and say that they did. Because if he said that they did, without calling out the pro-Confederacy group, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to add further fuel to a problem that's been invading our society over the last few years. And we all know what that is. So let's just hope that he stays out of it and focuses his attention on bigger issues and leaves this kind of stuff to us. Just a suggestion. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let's get back to the phones. Let's go to Peter. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Peter?
Hey, Stephen A.
How are you?
Do you think LeBron regrets going to the Lakers?
Nope. Not yet. Not yet?
Not yet?
No, not yet. This is his first season there.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean he can't. That doesn't mean he won't end up regretting it if they don't do something this off season and they don't make things better for him next season and beyond. Absolutely. All right, take it easy. Have a good day. Walter, you're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Stephen A., congrats to Spike Lee. Love your show, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Lifelong Steeler fan. I'm sick, man. How can you lose two players of that caliber? Now, I know there were questions of Ben's leadership and calling out his teammates. LeBron James did the same thing. You know, I think that's what leaders do. Mm-hmm. The way that he did call out Antonio wasn't, I guess, the greatest thing to do. But at the same time, Antonio, you're a big boy. You're a man here.
Well, listen, he wants out, and obviously the guaranteed portion of his dollars have been provided, so he's looking for new guaranteed money, and he certainly wasn't going to be in a position to demand it with the way things were going for him in Pittsburgh. So this could all be because of that reason. Because when he got on his treadmill and he was talking on us via Instagram last week, he made sure to mention you got to have guaranteed money to get him. He ain't playing for no more non-guarantees. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Yes.
Also, also in the questions of Big Ben's leadership, when the players raided Le'Veon Bell's locker once it was determined that he wasn't coming back, I think that was a time where, he could have stepped in, and squash that just because of the appearance of it, I think it closed the door of any future communications of maybe trying to work something out with Le'Veon.
But that's revisiting stuff, man. That's irrelevant at this point, to be quite honest with you. It don't matter how we got here. We here now. And the fact of the matter is that Big Ben Roethlisberger is going to be there. He's going to have Juju Smith-Schuster. He's going to have, James Conner. He's going to have Vance McDonald. He's going to have Jesse James. He's going to have a stout offensive line. We'll see what they're made of. Plain and simple. We'll find out.
Thank you, brother.
I got to go. I appreciate the call, man. Derek, you're live with Stephen A. What's going on, Derek? How are you?
Good, Stephen A. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. Talk to me.
Yes, sir. About the Ole Miss thing.
Okay.
With the kneeling. I'm a 40-year-old white male. My dad served in the military, and we lost him, fighting for our freedom. But I want to applaud the Ole Miss basketball team for taking a knee. I'm not a big kneeler for the national anthem, but if that's the way they felt, they needed to handle that situation against. I'm not all about the, people who are about hate and bigotry and things like that, but I just want to applaud them, and I want to thank you for all that you do and the way you stand up and, stand up for all of our rights. And I just wanted to give that comment to you.
Okay.
And
thank you so much.
I appreciate everything you do, Stephen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the call. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Let's go to Gary. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Gary? How are you, man?
I'm good, Stephen A. How are you today?
I'm doing all right. Thank you for calling. How can I help?
Sure thing. Hey, after the tragic event of last week, some people actually criticized Coach Boeheim for taking the court.
Stop right there. Let me just educate our listeners about it. Jim Boeheim, after his Syracuse team beat Louisville at the Carrier Dome, was driving home at around 11 o'clock at night on, I think it was Interstate 690, if I remember correctly. And prior to him getting to a certain area, a car had swerved and hit some grill or some midsection grill or whatever the case may be. And ultimately, guys got out of the car because they didn't want any cars to slide into them and hit them. Well, upon getting out of the car, Jim Boeheim was driving his car down that same road and accidentally struck an individual who ended up dying because he got hit by the car that Jim Boeheim was driving. So that's what happened. He elected to come back and still coach Saturday's game against Duke. I was at that game Saturday as well, but Jim Boeheim coached it, and he felt that he owed it to his players, his program, what have you, to be out there coaching on that particular day. But obviously, he expressed incredible sadness over having accidentally killed an individual in a car accident. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, sure, and I appreciate you covering that because some people have been critical of him for taking the court that day, despite the circumstances. And in addition to that, there's been some criticism of the fans themselves for when Coach Boeheim hit the floor and the standing ovation that he got. And knowing that you were in the dome that day, I was wondering if maybe you could shed a little light on how that all went down and the reaction of the crowd to.
Well, people gave him a standing ovation because, but people need to understand. People need to understand, Gary. They were not giving Jim Boeheim a standing ovation because he showed up to coach the game. They were giving him a standing ovation to support him because they could only imagine what he must have been going through. It was an accident, okay? There was no alcohol involved. He wasn't inebriated in any way. The roads were slick. It had been raining earlier. There was ice on the road. It was an absolute accident. Okay, this is according to the police. Even though they still haven't finished their investigation, they have to go through dot the I's, cross the T's, etc. For all intent and purposes, it was an accident. So the people that gave him a standing ovation, this is a man that has been coaching at Syracuse for over 36 years. This is a man that's a national champion, has been to 5 Final Four appearances, that's a pillar of the Syracuse community. And they know, they can only imagine what he's going through because they know there's no way on earth that he wished any harm upon another human being, particularly of that magnitude. And no, none of us would. None of us with any core decency about us would. Could you imagine how you would feel, Gary, or I would feel if we were sliding on the road and we accidentally struck someone and we killed them? I mean, you got to live with that for the rest of your life. The man was 51 years of age, Mr. Jimenez, I believe his name was. And the man was 51 years of age, and his life was taken away from him because of an accident that clearly could not be avoided. That's why they gave Jim Boeheim the standing ovation, to let him know that he had support from that Syracuse community in light of the accident that took place.
Absolutely, and I'm a lifelong Syracusan, long-time season ticket holder as well. This community absolutely loves its program, loves its coach, and certainly it was all in love and support for the man for what he is going through.
Yeah.
But for the grace of God, go us. Huh?
Yeah, that's right. Gary, I appreciate your call. Thank you so much. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Think about it. Listen, I've sped in my car on many occasions in my lifetime. Jim Boeheim wasn't even cited for speeding. He wasn't traveling at an exorbitant speed. He wasn't. There was no alcohol inducement. He wasn't inebriated in any way. So it was an accident. It could happen to any of us, and my heart goes out to him and his family and the Syracuse community. You don't wish something like that on anybody. You just don't. You know, and Mr. Jimenez is gone. God rest his soul. They gave him a moment of silence before the game at Syracuse. And what can you say? What can you say? I mean, you never in your wildest dreams believe that you'd be involved in an accident that kills somebody. And as Jim Boeheim said, he'll have to live with this for the rest of his life. And there is no question that that's exactly what he's going to have to do. I'm sad for him. I truly am. And I'm certainly sad for the Jimenez family. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live, Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with more of your calls in a minute. By the way, you know what never goes out of style? Surprising a friend or a loved one with buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to